6 pound. We trying to find out, is Dr. King a friend, a foe, or something in between? Let's go to our phone lines. Detroit.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. How about you, sis?
I'm all right. I don't like the topic. Martin Luther King makes me sick.
Wow. What about the little clip I just played of being black and proud? That doesn't fix it for you?
No, they don't. Because I remember back to when I was young, and I think of how he quelled. I kind of had a little bit of a militancy when I was younger. And I remember in my city, there were two neighborhoods. One was called Norwood, which was all white, and the other one was called Evanston, which was all black, and they were divided by railroad tracks. And even into the 80s, when I was growing up, if you were black, you really weren't supposed to be across those tracks at night, or you would have problems. Back in the 60s and 70s, you might have got, killed for something like that. You could come up missing. In the 80s, you could still get harassed by police, beat up, whatever. And so in the middle to late 80s, they started having these things called Norwood-Evanston coalitions. And I used to get dragged to them all the time. And especially on Martin Luther King Day, they would have a big celebration. And sometimes it would be in Evanston and sometimes it would be in Norwood. But I never could comprehend the fact that we didn't do anything to these people. So why are we trying to get together with these people and work it out and come to some agreement and all this forgiveness and stuff? We haven't done anything. I just couldn't understand it. But always getting that Martin Luther King ideology shoved down your throat to love your enemies and let bygones be bygones and all this stuff, I really never felt able to express that. And I almost felt like I was a bad person if I didn't go along with that. So I was cooning a little bit more than I would have been had it not been for that whole brainwashing philosophy. Had I been introduced to Nat Turner or Elijah Muhammad or something like that. And it just makes me sick to think about all of the children who are victimized by him being paraded around as some hero. And last week, you were breaking up a little bit, so I didn't hear everything, but I got the gist of it when you and the other brother were talking about down south, and I'm assuming this was after Reconstruction. It probably wasn't that long ago, that a white man could come up to the house of somebody who's married, make the husband leave, and rape his wife. And that had to be not too much sooner, I would imagine, before Martin Luther King. And he's a person telling us to forgive these people, to let that be okay. Don't worry about it. How can you go through the South telling these men to forgive and forget people who have raped their wives, who have lost any semblance of manhood, who aren't even worthy of respect because they won't even defend their family? And you're going to tell them that it's okay, forgive and forget, don't go out and kill those crackers? Are you kidding me? Oh, I'm done. I'm sorry.
No, don't be sorry. Look, I'm going to be 100% honest. I'm going to tell you exactly what happened. Because I don't want to lie to people. This is not really a totally fair discussion. I go in between dislike and pure venomous hatred for Martin Luther King. And when you were just talking, I started thinking about what Brother Fly talked about, the story about Mississippi, how the cracker would say something like every fifth child is mine. Because they had a process where they would come during a certain part of the year and leave, and the black man just would take his sons and they would all just leave, go fishing or whatever, and he would go have sex with his wife, and he knew if he didn't do it, he knew he would get killed. And of course they didn't do that to every brother. Some brothers wasn't having nothing like that, but generally speaking, it was a practice in certain areas, probably still is, as far as we know. But that was a practice that Brother Fly's grandmother told him about. So this was after slavery. So this was in between the 1870s and the early 1920s sometime. So when you were saying it and you were expressing your sentiment, be 100% honest, I started fading away. And I just started thinking how much I hate this dude. Every time I think about him telling us to love these individuals that are bombing those 4 little girls. Now, understand, I don't like Christianity, no church. If the church got messed up, I wouldn't have cared just because I don't want our people to be psychologically enslaved. But the fact that there were black people in those churches and that they murdered our babies, I cannot forgive him for going to those men and telling them to love these folks. If he felt that way, he should have stayed at home. But I can't respect nobody like that. And I ain't gonna lie. I feel the anger you feel, but I will admit, it ain't just disdain. It's pure. I get to the point with Dr. Martin Luther King when I listen to this foolishness that he's teaching our people, that I get to a point of hatred. So I can't be any more critical of you than I am of myself, because I can honestly say, when I think about him, he turns my stomach.
I agree. I feel the same way. I mean, and you ain't helping. Listening to the show ain't helping. I try to be somewhat not neutral, but I try to soften how I feel a little bit. But it's just no excuse for that. There's no excuse for that. And that whole philosophy is why black women can't respect their men. How can we respect men who will not defend us, will not protect us, will let us be raped, beat, anything? And they did it then, and for a while they were getting the militancy back after they got rid of King, you know, and even before that a little bit with the Nation of Islam. But now we're going right back into that, where we can't look to our men like anybody else could look to their men to defend us and look out for our best interest. Instead of leading us somewhere productive, you leading us straight to hell. It don't make sense.
I have, and I got to ask you, because I got to get the vote from you. I can't make the vote. But if we're going to if we had the vote that we're going to, and we don't have nothing in the middle, we can't qualify him. We got to make a decision on him. Would we keep Martin Luther King? Matter of fact, there are three options. We would either keep Martin Luther King as a martyr. We would use him as a teaching tool of what not to be, or we would make him a complete villain that every black man and woman child should never want to be. Which one would be your vote?
Faggot in the trunk.
Oh my God. Man, sis, so you said faggot in the trunk. Whoa. All right. We got your vote. I want to tell this quick story, and then we're going to go to Brother Body Shots. But I think it's a story that's so appropriate, because Sister Lady Shabazz said something that really kind of shook me a little bit, because I can admit one of the reasons I do this work is that I always feel as black men that we've let our women and children down because we haven't protected our race against the white race. And really, that's really an underlining principle of why I do this work. And I know everybody's in it for different reasons, but that, included with the sexual abuse, are things that really drive me, knowing that our people are being sexually abused. And I was able to avoid that. And I feel like it's wrong if my mother made sure it didn't happen to me, and I know it's happening to my people, and I ain't doing nothing about it, which goes back to us protecting our women and children. So it's part of the driving, motivating force and going out here and fighting. So whenever I hear a black woman be honest and say that we as black men are not protecting our women and children, it sends, it makes me feel a certain kind of way. And in speaking of that, I want to tell a story. Our brother Louis Ali comes from a family of freedom fighters. And when I went down there the first time, actually the second time I went down there, his father came and said some very, very, very positive, sincere things to me. And I've never forgotten it, and it really moved me. And whenever I think about it, it just makes me smile, because you never feel like you live up to the standard of the freedom fighters that are out there for our people and the real black men of the past. Let me say, I never feel like I live up to that standard. I don't feel like I'm the man that these men have been. And so this story is about his father. This ain't no story we making up. This is his real father now. Many years ago, Brother Louis Ali lived in Milwaukee when he was a little boy. And his mother was outside, and him and his brother were outside playing. And some white males walked down the street and tried to snatch their mother's clothes off, or whatever the case may be, to sexually assault her. And she was able to run in the house and get away, and they ran and got away. And if I remember the story correctly, somebody was telling his mother, not to tell Brother Louis Ali's father, because, as we say in the hood, he got a rep, he's a brother with a rep. And but she would not do that. She said, no, this is my husband. I got to tell him what happened. And she contacted her husband and told him what had happened, that these white males had come by and tried to assault her. And so he called up his good friend, and they went out and drove. And by the end of the night, there was 4 less devils that anybody ever had to worry about raping anybody. Shot him point blank, dead on arrival. And came home and felt good about the fact that he had defended the life of his children and his wife's honor. Now, that's one of those men that I don't live up to the standard of that man. And that's one of those men, like the sister was just talking about, that don't defend the family. That's one of the contradictions to this modern environment that we live in, where black men are not protecting our women and children. And so when that man came to me and said some very positive and powerful things to me, and extended a hand of assistance to me and a promise to me, he and Brother Lewis don't understand what it means to me. Because in the shadow of a man like that, that's what I call a man. That would have been a man who would have been happy to walk with Nat Turner. That would have been a Will the Executioner or a Hark or a Travis. That would have been one of the few brothers, while all the rest of them was scared and shaking in their boots, that Nat would have said, I like that man right there. He's going to come with me because we want some freedom. We going to freedom land. The only way we can do it is walking over the dead bodies of our enemies. And I don't think I'm going to do it without that man right there. He would have went and gotten that man. So I just telling that story not to brag or boast about the kind of character that we have around us, but just to understand that in lieu of a man like that still living today, I've met this man. He doesn't brag. He doesn't speak about that. He did what needed to be done. Why is it that I would ever mention a coon like Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., a Negro, a thief, a cheat that stole African self-esteem and self-respect in exchange for love for some wicked demons that would murder and kill our people? So as opposed to blowing their damn brains out like and killing them crackers the way them crackers should have been killed, like our brother did, Martin Luther King would have just came home and said, oh, Coretta, we love these crackers. And you're going to be out your goddamn mind.